Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show with SportsbookReview.com. I'm your host, Lee Martin, here to break down the entire main card for UFC Vegas 30, Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov. That is taking place this Saturday, June 26th at the UFC Apex. Now, before we get into everything, today's show will be like always with the main card breakdown. We'll dabble into the prelims. We'll give you our lock on the card. If you guys have any questions throughout the show, throw your questions into the chat, and we'll do our best to get them answered at the end of the show. Now, before we get this show on the road, just real quick, give this video a like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a show. Now, joining me today, like always, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself. We have Matt Ryan, and yes, we do have a new face on the show. We have Jack Zampillo. He is a journalist with Scraptitude and also runs his own podcast. So, Jack, since you are a new face on the show, just real briefly, give us a background about yourself and where we can find your content.
I'm Jack Zampillo. I'm 21 years old from Chicago, Illinois. I'm an aspiring MMA journalist with Scraptitude. You can find my content, The Z and Clay Show, which is a podcast that I host alongside my partner, Clay Wakeman. You can find that on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just search Scraptitude wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm really looking forward to a lot of the things that Scraptitude has to offer and the things that we are going to be bringing to the table in the future.
He also likes long walks on the beaches, romantic sunsets, and also the Chicago Cubs. I'm just making an assumption here. I don't know.
I am a Chicago Cubs fan, and you're already throwing jabs at me. We're like 2 minutes into the show. I'm just trying to tell the people who I am. Man, you're bringing the heat already today.
Hold on. I'm gonna put on my the yelling glasses because I gotta put on the yelling glasses. There we go.
I love it. No, Jack, I love the fact that you're a Chicago fan because you already know that I'm a Chicago sports fan too. So I already love it.
Such a shame. Such a shame.
Now, welcome, guys. Welcome to everyone watching the show. Like always, we're going to begin today with a recap of what happened over the weekend. We had UFC Vegas 29, the Korean Zombie versus Ige, and I have a lot of mixed feelings as to what happened over the weekend. Yes, I won my Marlon Vera bet, but I did not win my Dan Ige bet, and I was actually pretty upset because I expected more out of him. But that's behind me now. I just want to hear how your guys' weekend went, how your picks went. Matt, I will begin with you for your recap of UFC Vegas 29.
In your head, I called it. Zombie. All right, I'm not going to get us DMCA'd, but yeah. No, from the Korean Zombie did Korean Zombie things, and he won. I know you were pulling for Danny Gay Lee, but at the end of it, you never bet against a man named Zombie. You just don't. You just don't do it.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you won your bet, Matt. So I guess we'll see how this weekend goes with our picks. But how about you, Jack? How did your weekend go with your picks?
I thought it was a very solid night of fights. A lot of great finishes. Matt Brown, I would say, it was the highlight of the night. The old man getting the job done against Diego Lima. But I'm with you, Lee. I indeed picked Dan Ige to win by unanimous decision, and that was a fault of mine. Like you said, Matt, you can never should never bet against a guy named the Zombie. But I did hit a nice 2-bet parlay. I had Chaos Williams, the money line on him, and I also had Josh Parisian by decision. He wound up winning that fight by split decision, obviously, and so had a nice little cash out on that one. So I would say it was a solid night of fights.
Good. I love to hear that. That's so great. Well, hopefully this weekend is going to be another great event, especially for our picks. So let's just jump into our main card breakdown because we got 6 fights to break down. Again, it'll be UFC Vegas Gane versus Volkov this Saturday, June 26th at the UFC Apex. And I cannot believe that June is almost over. Mind just blown. I just realized that. But let's begin. We have, for the first fight, lightweight Renato Moicano versus Jai Herbert via Bet Online. Moicano is minus 235 and Herbert is plus 200. Matt, I will begin with you for your breakdown and pick for this first fight.
Yeah, that plus 200 really does make sense because Jai Herbert, even though he's 10-2, is coming off of a loss to Francisco Trinaldo. He got dropped in the 3rd round back in July of last year for his UFC debut. His only other pro loss was a TKO against Reese McKee. And here's an interesting stat about Herbert. This stat brought to you by Crippling Anxiety. He's only been out of the second round 3 times in his career and only been to the scorecards once. And then you take a look against Renato Moicano, who has had 19 fights in his career. He's 6-4 in the UFC. Last time we saw him was he's lost 1-3 in his last 4. All of those losses by knockout or TKO. Big losses to Rafael Fiziev, Jose Aldo, and Korean Zombie. His last win came in March of 2020 via submission. He's 6-4 in the UFC and has only been decisioned once. He's been knocked out 3 times. He's been submitted once. This one's a toss-up for me. I know Moicano's the favorite, but I like that plus 200 on Herbert. I like that. Even though he got dropped by Trinaldo, you take a look at that run from Moicano. This is a gatekeeper fight more than anything. So if you're looking for something here, I would put Herbert in a parlay, in a bigger parlay, because that for me that's good money. Plus 200 is good money. It's a good situation for you to be in. If you're betting straight up on this fight, you're a lunatic person. I don't know what's wrong with you. I would suggest you talk to someone in a mental health capacity immediately, but that's how I'm looking for this fight.
No, the plus 200, that's really good value. But Jack, how about you? What is your breakdown and pick for this first fight?
Well, Renato Moicano, he's one of the most tenacious strikers in the lightweight division, landing over 25 significant strikes per round. But what concerns me about him is his loss by finish rate, which sits at 40%. He's lost all 4 of his losses in the UFC have come by way of finish, 3 of those by knockout. And as Matt referred to, Jai Herbert is a proven menace on the feet. His last 4 wins have come by first round knockout. And like you said, Matt, that line on Herbert by knockout is going to be very interesting. That plus 200 money could win people a lot of money. So, I might throw him in a parlay, Jai Herbert by knockout in a parlay as well. But I might go Moicano by decision here just because of the experience that he has in the UFC, but I could also see a scenario where Herbert catches him early and puts him out.
Beautiful. So I'm going to read those prop odds right now. So Jai Herbert by knockout or TKO, that's plus 335 right there. But if you do like Moicano by points, that's plus 240. So you can't get the value right there if you guys do like Moicano. But again, if you like Moicano, throw him into a parlay. But again, I like the value. I like the value in the props. So do your shopping, get the value there. Via BetOnline, again, Moicano's minus 235 and Herbert is plus 200. But let's move on to the next fight. Welterweight, Tim Means versus Nicolas Dalby. I love this fight. I love this fight so much.
I'm with you, Lee.
Like last week, was it last week Tim Means was supposed to be there, but he got injured or something? But anyway, he's back.
There's always something with Timmy Means.
Always something. But via BetOnline, Tim Means is minus 135 and Dalby is plus 115. Jack, I'll continue with you for your breakdown and pick for this next fight.
Tim Means versus Nicolas Dalby is my sleeper for fight of the night on this card. Both of these guys are incredibly durable, but I will say this is a tough matchup for Nicolas Dalby. Means implements a high pace, high pressure fighting style. He lands over 25 significant strikes per round as well, and he's very calculated and measured at range. And if Dalby can use his feints and close the distance on Means and secure some takedowns, he could find success, but his takedown accuracy, sits at a measly 33%. And Means is a crafty veteran and he finds ways to win fights. So I'm going to go by Tim Means by points.
All right, beautiful. I'll get those props up. But first, Matt, let's hear your breakdown and pick for this next fight.
This is another interesting fight. I like that Jack is going out there saying this is his sleeper for fight of the night. You take a look at this, and Tim Means is on a 2-fight winning streak. He's got wins over Mike Perry and Loreno Starpoli back in 2020, both of them by unanimous decision. But he did get subbed by Daniel Rodriguez in the fight before that. So you have that going up against guys who are on the downside, no matter if you're a Mike Perry fan or not, the man's taking more blows to the head than a punching bag. So it does make it hard for you to kind of look at him in an upper echelon in the welterweight division. On the other hand, you've got Dalby, who's got a win over Daniel Rodriguez. He's got a win over common opponents, Daniel Rodriguez and Alex Oliveira, and they were by unanimous decision. So he's gone the distance against top fighters before. He's 2-0-2 in his last 4 fights. He won 3 straight fights prior to a no contest in his final Cage Warriors fight. And that was due to an unsafe surface. Also, this is his second run in the UFC. His first fight in the UFC, his initial fight in the UFC many moons ago, was a majority draw against Darren Till. But here's the problem for Dalby. He cannot finish. He has not had a finish in any of his UFC fights. He's either been stopped or gone the distance in all of his UFC fights. He's knocked out 6. He's got a submission ratio of 4 in his career, 9 decision wins. So some interesting stats there for him. And then we take a look. 19, when you look at decisions, Means is an even 5-5 in his career. So it is a literal toss-up when he goes to the scorecards. He's been iffy in step-up fights. He's gone to a decision in 5 of his last 10 fights, which is an interesting stat there. Half of his 10 most recent fights have gone to decision. This one's a toss-up for me. I'm siding with Tim Means a little bit, but I really like Dalby. I really
Come
like
on, Matt.
I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm not gonna waver on this one. I'm gonna go by Nick Dalby, and I'm gonna go by decision. I think it's gonna be a split decision. It's gonna be a split decision. This is gonna be a close and contentious fight, but I think Dalby gets the win here.
Predicting a decision is very bold. I respect that.
Yeah, honestly, because I was leaning Tim Means by points also, and the value there is for that BetOnline props is at plus 160 if you guys, instead of paying up for the minus 135. But I'll remember this, man. I'll see what else. We'll see next week. But if you guys do want to get in on this fight via BetOnline, Nicolas Dalby is plus 115 and Tim Means is minus 135. But let's move on to the next fight. We have featherweight Andre Touchy Fili versus Daniel Pineda. Via BetOnline, Fili is minus 225 and Pineda is plus 190. Matt, I'll continue with you for your breakdown and pick for this next fight.
Oh, we've got guys coming into this coming off of losses. Daniel Pineda got knocked out by Cub Swanson. He's 1-1 in his last 2. Fili coming off a decision loss to Bryce Mitchell, and his last win was a split decision against Charles Jourdain. I'm not trying to come at Andre Fili and say that he's not where he needs to be, but he might be post-peak right here. All last 3 losses were by stoppage. All but his last 3 losses were by stoppage. He's gone past the second round in 10 of his last 11 fights, 9 decisions in that run. So all but one of those fights were stoppages. And 9-4 when it goes to the scorecards, which is pretty good going up against Pineda, who has never won by decision. He is 0-5 on the scorecards in his career. But Pineda got knocked out in his loss to Cub Swanson, but did knock out Herbert Burns at UFC 252. Would have had a 7-fight streak heading into that Cub Swanson fight, but had a no contest in the PFL, had 2 wins turned into no contest because, well, his P turned out to not really be clean. So Pineda's not seen a scorecard since 2016. And that was in Bellator against Emmanuel Sanchez. So as he's leveled up in competition, he's either gotten his chin checked or has checked a chin. And that 18 submissions, that's a really big thing there. I see this fight going into the 3rd round, but I'm going to go with Pineda and I'm going to go with stoppage here. I'm not hedging my bet, calling my shot, whether he's going to knock him out or tap him out. Really hard to tap out Andre Fili. But for me, right here, right now, I don't see this fight going to a decision. If it does, leverage that with an Andre Fili prop. Look at that prop bet there and see, because 0-5 in the scorecards, this guy will gas out by the 3rd round, so he's going to try to do something desperate. So I'm looking at Pineda by stoppage, but keep that in your back pocket there.
No, I can see Pineda bringing this fight to the ground, definitely. And I can see him just riding it out. And I can actually see it going to the scorecards, So via BetOnline, Fili by points is plus 125 and Pineda by points is plus 400. So there's value right there. But how about you, Jack? What is your breakdown and pick for Fili versus Pineda?
I love this because Matt and I are disagreeing on everything. So I think Andre Fili is an underrated fighter at 145 pounds. I personally love watching this guy fight. He's aggressive. He always takes the fight to his opponents, and I feel like he's always looking to gain positional dominance, which is a very good tool to have in your back pocket. Pineda has lost 3 of his last 5, and the numbers are pretty even on the feet, but when you look at the numbers in terms of the grappling and the takedowns, Fili seems to have the advantage. He lands more takedowns per round, and Pineda's takedown defense is at a 44%. So if Fili can take this fight to the ground and gain positional dominance on him, I could see Fili finding a finish here.
Well, so you think Andre Fili he's stronger in grappling than Pineda, is what you're saying?
I'm not saying he's necessarily stronger, but if you look at the numbers here, he lands 2.5 takedowns per round to Pineda's 1.55, and his takedown accuracy is significantly higher than Pineda's. It's at a 49% to Pineda's 29%. I'm not saying he's necessarily the stronger fighter, but in terms of technique and the way that Fili implements his wrestling and his grappling into his game, I think he will have the advantage in that department.
All right, beautiful. So I guess we'll see. But if you guys do want to get in on this fight, here I am stumbling over my words. Via Bet Online, Fili is minus 225 and Pineda is plus 190. But let's move on to the next fight with bantamweight Raoni Barcelos versus Timur Valiev. Via Bet Online, Barcelos is minus 220 and Valiev is plus 185. Jack, I'll continue with you for your breakdown and pick for this next fight.
This is another potential fight of the night. I mean, both of these guys are ferocious in their pursuit. Barcelos has finished 10 of his 16 wins in the UFC. He's unbeaten in the UFC. And I remember watching his last fight, and all I could think was, this dude's going to be a problem. Everything he throws is with purpose. He also incorporates takedowns well. But Valiev is no joke. He only has 2 fights in the UFC, but he's proven to be just as relentless as Barcelos. He lands over 25 significant strikes per round as well. The odds makers have Barcelos at a minus 230 right now, at least in my book, and I tend to agree there. I think Barcelos is a marauder on the feet, and I see Valiev having a hard time with his constant pressure and overwhelming pace. I'm going to take Barcelos on points.
Okay, beautiful. How about you, Matt? What is your breakdown and pick for this next fight?
It's hard to go against Barcelos here. He's got a 9-fight winning streak, 5 of those by stoppage, 4 by knockout or TKO, 1 by submission, 4 by decision. His last 2 wins were decisions over Khalid Taha and Sid Nurmagomedov. He's knocked out 8 in his career. He's submitted 6 decisions. So this is someone who likes to throw and someone who is willing to go the entire 15 minutes if necessary. Valiev, not a bad guy, not a bad person to go up against here. This is a big fight for both of these guys, a co-main event. His last win was in February, his second UFC fight over Martin Day. He lost his UFC debut, but it became a no contest because Trevin Jones is 420 friendly for those playing along at home. And for Valiev, has not lost in 4 years outside of that Trevin Jones fight. Was a split decision, though, against Chris Gutierrez in the World Series of Fighting, now known as the PFL. And he's only lost by decision. And here's a fun fact. Valiev, if the fight goes to the 3rd round, he is 10-1 when the fight has entered the 3rd round. That is a big, big plus for Valiev because, 6 decisions in his career for Barcelos, that's all but 10 of his victories. That's a big stat there. It's hard for me to pick a winner in this one because I like a lot of what these guys look like on paper. But I'm going to go with Barcelos. I think he's going to get to a 10-fight winning streak here. I think this is going to be Valiev's first decision loss. I think this is going to be the first time he loses on points. I think it's going to be a split decision.
Hey, we agree. Nice.
There you go. Now I'm looking at the props at Bet Online. Barcelos by points is plus 125, so you don't have to pay up that minus 220 unless you guys do want to throw him into a parlay. But even then, the value is all in the props. It's all there for you. But again, via Bet Online, Barcelos minus 220 and Valiev is plus 185. Okay, now before we get into the co-main, I just want to let you guys know if you have any questions at all for any of us, just real quick, throw them into the chat and we'll do our best to get them answered at the end of the show. But let's move on to the co-main event. And anyone that knows me knows my love for OSP. I love this fight. I'm looking forward to this fight so much. But we have heavyweight Tanner Boser versus Ovince Preux via Bet Online. Where is your name? OSP is plus 150 and Tanner Boser is minus 175. Now, my real question is, Tanner Boser literally fought at the beginning of this month. So is this too quick of a turnaround? Do you think OSP will have a slight advantage this weekend? Matt, I will begin with you for your breakdown and pick for the co-main.
Yeah, this is two of Lee's sweet spots. It's OSP, who is her favorite fighter, and a weird, heavy white guy. So it's already just like finding the sweet spots with a weird haircut. So it's all over the place for Lee. Yeah, this is too soon for Tanner Boser. Going up against a guy like OSP, even though OSP got TKO'd by Jamal Hill, I'm sorry, Lee, in his last fight back in December, and he's 3-4 in his last 7. Boser has lost his last 2 fights by decision, and he's now prepping after going 15 minutes in his last fight against Ilir Latifi. And also, his other loss is to Andre freaking Arlovsky. Now, no shade on Andre Arlovsky, but if you're going the full 15 minutes and doing the job to Andre Arlovsky, who may or may not be my father's age, that's a problem. And also, he lost to Ciryl Gane, who's in the main event. So he's gotten 3 big losses in his UFC career. They're not jabroni losses. They're not walkovers. These are hard-fought losses going 15 minutes against 3 of these guys. He's 3-3 in the UFC with wins over Daniel Spitz, Felipe Lins, and Rafael Perosa. He's knocked out 10. He's never been tapped out, but he's going up against OSP, for God's sake. OSP, in fights that go to a decision, is 5-9. So both of these guys, I think Boser's going to be a little gas coming into this fight. I think he's flying a little too close to the sun here, a little Icarus-y. But I'm going with OSP here. I'm not quite sure how this fight will go. But for a guy who's never tapped, I think that's something OSP is going to be looking for. Try to drain him. Try to pressure him. It's the baby cage, so it's 2 big dudes in the baby cage. And I don't think Boser's faced someone with the level of submission proficiency as an OSP. So I'm looking at this fight going to stoppage. I think that Boser's going to try. He's going to gas out early because of those last 2 fights. And it's going to be a big win for Tennessee's favorite boy.
Yeah, you already know that Boser's going to come out and try to finish OSP. So OSP just needs to survive the first and probably the second round too. But Boser, he moves good for a heavyweight. He moves like a middleweight out there. That's why I'm very drawn between this. But I don't want to sound like I'm biased by picking OSP because at one point I was leaning Boser, but then I looked at the turnaround time, everything. Also, another thing, this is OSP's second heavyweight fight. His first heavyweight fight was with Ben Rothwell, and then he went back down to light heavyweight. So that's why I'm like, am I wrong for liking OSP in this pick? So, Jack, I want to hear your opinion for this co-main.
And that's the thing that hasn't been brought up yet is the fact that this is just OSP's second fight at heavyweight. Boser is going to be the bigger man, not necessarily in height, but he will be the more physically imposing fighter. Now, I understand that this is a quick turnaround for Boser, okay? But I think the fact that he has the confidence to step back into the octagon against a guy like OSP on such short notice shows me that he has the drive and the confidence in his abilities in this fight to go in there and beat a guy like OSP, because let's not sit here and act like OSP is unbeatable, especially at the heavyweight division. I can see a scenario where Tanner Boser goes out there and stuns him with one of the first couple right hands that he lands. I mean, we really don't know. That's why the odds are so close here. And like I said, or like you guys said, we have to consider the 3-week turnaround. Will Boser gas out later in the fight? That will be seen on Saturday. But I am going to go with Tanner Boser here. I think he, like I said, he's the more physically imposing fighter, and he uses his footwork to take angles very well. He's a tough opponent, tough night out for anybody, and I think he is going to win this fight Probably by decision, but there's some plus money to be made on Tanner Boser by KO here.
I'm going to pull that up right now, the props. Tanner Boser by KO, plus 285. Or Boser by points is plus 175. And yeah, at BetOnline, they have it ending inside the distance. No is at minus 120, so ending inside the distance is favored right now. But straight up, OSP is plus 150 and Tanner Boser is minus 175. Again, I am so drawn for this fight, but this is my most favorite fight on the card. But let's go to the heavyweight, the main event. We have a heavyweight main event, and I know, Matt, you're so happy for this. But we have Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov. Via BetOnline, Gane is minus 170, and Volkov is plus 145. Jack, I will continue with you for your breakdown and pick for the main event.
I love this fight. From the minute that it was announced, I was stoked to see this one. I've had it marked on my calendar for quite some time. Both of these guys are so good. I think outside of Francis Ngannou, they may be the two most skilled fighters in the heavyweight top 10. There's arguments that can be made there, but I will take you at your money. Volkov comes in the much more experienced fighter with 33 more pro fights than Ciryl Gane. And there are a lot of people high on Ciryl Gane, and rightfully so. He mixes it up very well. I'm pleasantly surprised with how polished he is with only 8 mixed martial arts fights. I mean, this is a guy that started training mixed martial arts at an older age than most people do. So Volkov has a very tough fight on his hands, but this is also Ciryl Gane's toughest fight in the UFC. I think Volkov is the most dynamic striker in the heavyweight division. He's so tactical at range. He's finished 4 of his 7 fights in the UFC, but Ciryl Gane is here for a reason. I'm kind of torn between this fight. To be honest with you, the odds are so close, like I said, for a reason. But I'm leaning Alexander Volkov because of the experience. I think he'll be able to neutralize, not all, but a lot of the takedown threat that Ciryl Gane is going to bring his way. And I think we'll see a lot of this fight fought at range. Alexander Volkov by late stoppage or points.
Yeah, because I like Ciryl Gane in this fight, and just based off of how he fought Rosenstrike, he was very calm, he was patient, he stayed at distance, and went in when he found the right opening. I feel like he might have a similar game plan with Volkov, especially because of his knockout power or whatever. But Matt, I want to go with you and hear your breakdown and pick for the main event.
So this is Volkov's 4th fight in a year, his 5th fight in like 16, 18 months. Let's take a look at the two guys who you can put Ciryl Gane in comparison with that Volkov has faced off against. Greg Hardy and Curtis Blaydes. He had to go to a decision against both of them. He got a unanimous decision win over Greg Hardy, but if you have to go the full 15 minutes to defeat Greg Hardy, not necessarily the best opportunity for you there. He had to go to distance against Curtis Blaydes, which is not a slight on him in the least bit. Blaydes is a killer inside the octagon. And then he got TKO wins over Walt Harrison and Alistair Overeem. But then you see what Ciryl Gane's been able to do. He went the distance. He went 5 rounds against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And Lee, you said it best. He was patient. He was calm. He made me look like a jackass because I picked Rozenstruik in that fight. But he went the distance against Tanner Boser. He got a TKO over Junior Dos Santos. And no matter what, beating JDS is still, you're beating a former UFC heavyweight champion. And against all the guys except maybe Verdum that Volkov's gone against recently since joining the UFC back in 2016, the highest caliber opponent either guy has faced with the exception of Derek Lewis. And we all know what happened in the Volkov-Lewis fight. And I think that might have been a big moment for Volkov, because we would probably be talking about interim UFC heavyweight champion Alexander Volkov if that happens. He might have been the guy who faced Daniel Cormier, and that could have changed the entire pace of the UFC heavyweight division. But since then, he's been 3-1, and it's that Greg Hardy thing really stands out for me. That Greg Hardy fight, going the distance and getting a win against Greg Hardy, is a real big red flag for me when you're going up against a guy like Gane who has similar experience inside the octagon. A little more experience, obviously. He's got the Muay Thai background. But I like Ciryl Gane here, and I like it maybe being a walk-off. You know, we haven't seen the only guy that has been knocking him out. Let's take a look here. Knockout. There has been 2 people who have been able to knock out Volkov. It was Derek Lewis and Vitaly Minakov. So big, heavy-handed human beings. And I think that Gane's got that level of punching power, if not that level of patience. Also, we're in the baby cage, so it's going to be a small, small fight. This is not going to go the distance, but I'm leaning towards Ciryl Gane here.
All right, so I have 2 different scenarios. Either Volkov comes out, because he's always hunting for that knockout. He actually comes out and knocks out Gane, giving him his first knockout loss. Or it goes later into the rounds, and it leans Gane by points. That's how I see it. And Gane by points is at plus 200 right now. So goes the distance, no, minus 125. That's how I see it. But I'm leaning Gane by this. Again, just based off of how he fought Rosenstrike, he's very smart. He's very sharp. You know, he's very good at reading his opponent. If he takes his time, if he's able to withhold the power that Volkov has, then it's Gane's fight. So,
but also, real quick, Jairzinho Rosenstrike fought most of that fight against Gane on his back foot. Now, that does speak credit to Gane's pace and pressure and his patience, but Jairzinho Rosenstrike, remember after that fight, we were talking about the fact that his output wasn't really there. He landed some shots, but the combinations weren't necessarily there. Volkov is a combination striker, and he uses his kicks, he uses his punches, he sets things up so well, and it goes back to me saying he's the most dynamic striker in the heavyweight division because of the way that he fights. He's going to bring the fight to Ciryl Gane, and I think it's going to be a tough fight. If Ciryl Gane is going to win this fight, though, it will be on points.
Yes, exactly. But do you think the later the fight goes, Volkov still has a chance? Say, like, if it does make it to the 4th and 5th round, do you think Volkov can still win by points?
The later it goes, the more it favors Ciryl Gane, right? But I think, like you said, I could see a scenario where Volkov goes out there and hands Ciryl Gane his first loss in mixed martial arts because of the experience, because of the striking prowess, because of the technicality, and because of the power that he holds. You talked a lot about the Greg Hardy fight, Matt. Remember, that was a short notice fight. He wasn't supposed to fight Greg Hardy, and Greg Hardy stepped in to fight him.
But he had to go the distance against a guy in Greg Hardy who needed an asthma inhaler to barely win a fight. The deeper the fight goes for Greg Hardy, the harder it is for him to even stand up. And someone in the chat, BC Dave, saying Greg Hardy's a football player for FFS. Yeah, that's the problem, is that he had to go 15 minutes on short notice with a guy who had to get DQ'd in one fight, almost got pinated in every other fight, and could barely breathe. Not even, he was barely breathing. He couldn't find the air. I don't mean to Duncan Sheik this, but come on, guys. Come on.
I'm not saying that Greg Hardy is anything more than what he is. He is a football player, but all I was saying, he took the fight on short notice. Greg Hardy does have that power in his hands.
I guess we'll have to see what happens.
But just to bring it up here real quick, the guys that he has gone into the 3rd round against since joining the UFC, Timothy Johnson, Roy Nelson, Stefan Struve, Verdum, before the Derek Lewis fight. Those fights went to the 3rd, and in the Verdum case, the 4th round. He got 2 decision wins. One was unanimous against Roy Nelson, but this is 2017, right before he jumps to Bellator. So he's had to go deeper into fights against guys with less cardio, less ability, and less patience. Stefan Struve is an ostrich in fighter form. So you're already leveraging. You had to go 4 rounds with Verdum to get the KO. So, and that's not an easy feat to knock out Verdum, but 2018 Verdum, there's a lot of questions there. He's gotten the wins, he's gotten the knockouts, but he's had to do a lot and wait a while for those things to happen. So those are red flags to me. Those are problems. And then you're going up against a younger fighter who might be in better condition, probably in better condition against every other fighter he's faced with the exception of Overeem, because Overeem doesn't freaking age. And you know what? That I got a performance of the night bonus, but now Overeem's gone back to kickboxing. Mm-hmm. So you have more questions than answers when it comes to the guys that Volkov has fought. He's knocked out 22 dudes, but he's had to put in a lot of work to get it done.
But he still knocked out 22 dudes.
Oh, yeah, no. He can whoop my ass, no problem. I'm just saying going up against Ciryl Gane, yeah. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. But since we are in the main event, and I know I said I'll wait for the questions at the end, but this stood out to me. Will Gane make a mistake trying to be more exciting? BC_Dave said that. And either Matt or Jack, whoever wants to answer that question, do you think it would be a mistake if he came out full throttle, or should he take his time? I'll go with Jack.
Go ahead.
I think it would be somewhat of a mistake, and I guess I would have to specify full throttle more. If he comes out early on and tries to kickbox with Alexander Volkov at range right from the jump, I think he will have some problems closing that distance just because of how experienced of a striker that Alexander Volkov is. But if he comes forward with a pace and a wrestling / grappling first mindset, especially early on, to try and wear out Volkov to negate that chance of Volkov catching him and knocking him out in the earlier rounds. I think the earlier Ciryl Gane implements his wrestling and his grappling, the better in this fight. So to answer your question, if he comes out full throttle in the striking realm, yes, I think he'll fall into some traps. But if he comes out full throttle with his grappling and his wrestling, I think it could bode very well for him throughout the 25-minute fight.
No, I agree with you on that one. Matt, do you have a different answer for that question, or do you have the same response?
No, I'm pretty aligned with that. Like, I'd love to see an exciting fight. I'd love to see a 45-second fight, because then I can, have a drink, go to bed, fight somebody in the street. But you got to be patient here. Volkov's got knockout power. He's knocked out 22 human beings. You got to be slow, steady, treat this the same way you treated the Rosenstruik fight. You got to treat him with the same level of respect, if not more.
Yeah, and if Volkov comes out firing out, then I can see Gane just like what Jack just said, bring it to the ground, put in the clinch, just wear him out. But all right, but again, I'll read off the odds again. Ciryl Gane is -170, Volkov is +145. The MMA props on Bet Online, they're all out there for you guys. But let's move on to our top prelim pick. Matt, I'll begin with you. Is there a specific prelim fight that you're looking forward to?
Not necessarily on this one. I got to take another review of it. So, Jack, you can take a look at that. You can give us yours, because I just need to take a look and see again which of these fights are ones that I want to write home about.
I personally, I'm sorry, Jack, before I get to you, what stood out to me the most, Avila and Stoliarenko. That is definitely my favorite prelim fight on this card, and I am definitely backing Avila in this one. I will go on a rant on that on Twitter. So, Jack, I will go. Let me know what your top prelim pick is.
So I want to apologize in advance because I'm definitely going to jumble the name. But Kennedy Nzechukwu, I don't know. Kennedy. Kennedy, perfect. Love that. We're on the same page. Kennedy versus Danilo Marques. This is your classic striker versus grappler matchup. Marques has had just 2 fights inside the UFC. He's attempted 23 takedowns already. He's 2-0. And while this sort of matchup normally favors the grappler, I'm leaning Kennedy's way here. His 2 opponents inside the UFC, Danilo Marquez's, have a combined record of 3-7. And Kennedy's only mistake on the ground was a submission loss to Paul Craig. And we've obviously seen what Paul Craig can do. A couple of his other fights inside the UFC, he's gotten taken down multiple times and has still won those fights. He comes into this fight with a 6-inch reach advantage also, and he has a diverse striking profile that includes a nice variation of kicks. So I'm going to take Kennedy by inside 2 rounds in this one.
Beautiful. So I'll read their odds. Kennedy via Bet Online is -120, and Danilo Marques is +100. But if we go to the MMA props, I'm sorry, what did you say your pick was? It was Kennedy what? By points?
No, by stoppage inside 2 rounds.
By stoppage?
Knockout.
Okay, by knockout. So Kennedy by knockout +190. There's the value. And also Kennedy inside the distance at plus 150. So again, do your shopping. All the value is out there for you. Now, how about you, Matt? Did you find your top prelim pick?
I like both of the fights you mentioned, mainly because Julia Avila and Jesus Lord, and Stoliarenko is a really good fight that's really buried at the bottom of a deep prelim card. You got Charles Rosa versus Justin James, which just sounds like a pornographic person name. You got Yancy Medeiros on this card. Marcin Prachniow is on this card. Warley
Alves is on here, your favorite name. Yeah.
But here's the thing about the Kennedy fight that I like. Nzechukwu has an 83-inch reach. He's got a 6-inch reach advantage against someone who's an inch higher, so he can find the chin of Marquez really quickly, really easily. So that's why I like him in there. Yes, exactly, Jack. The old 1-2 to the punum, as we like to say in Sunset Park. The gallete to the jaw. But I'm going with Avila here, but I like that Kennedy fight too, and I like Kennedy inside 2 rounds. That money sounds real sweet, and I would probably take that. I would take that line.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now let's go on to our Lock on the Card segment. Now, for this segment, yeah, I know, I wish Dave was here. Not I wish Dave was here, but I always have Dave in my heart because I know he hates this segment. So we call it our potential Lock on the Card. And honestly, for me, it is Avila. I really like Avila for this fight. She is coming off a loss against Sijara Eubanks by decision, but her last win was against Gina Mazzani in June by TKO in the first round. She has the reach advantage. She's just so much more powerful. What I'm worried about is Stoliarenko and her submission skills. So either this can go Avila winning by knockout, Stoliarenko by submission, or it actually goes the distance. But for me, I like Avila inside the distance at plus 175. But how about you, Jack? I'll start with you for your potential lock on the card.
My potential lock on the card is Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's taking on Mikel Prazeres. You know, a lot of these names jumble me. I need John Anik up in here to give me some name pronunciation teachings. But this guy, he's only 1-0 in the UFC, but he's 13-0 overall. And all 13 of those wins have come by finish. This guy pushes the pace. He's aggressive. He looks for the finish, and he's coming off of a win over Alex Oliveira, who's a veteran. He submitted him in the first round. I'm taking Rakhmonov as my lock of the night.
Beautiful. Well, before I get to Matt, I'm cracking up at this comment from Joseph Gomez. Shout out to Joseph Gomez because he is here for literally every single show. You are the best. But he said Matt's about to knock out someone with his chancla after the fight. I thought that was really funny. But Matt, what is your potential lock on the card?
I'm always swinging a chancleta around. I'm growing up in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Stand up. I hate this segment as much as Dave does. I just don't talk about it. Because it puts you in a weird position.
It puts the pressure on you, okay?
Yeah.
You got to strive under pressure. Fourth quarter. This is your time, Matt.
Like the other Matt Ryan, I have a better playoff performance record, so we're going to set that off right quick. I'm going to lean back so people don't stare into my pores. I'm going to go out and say Ciryl Gane. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say Ciryl Gane is my lock of the week. Stone cold lock of the pick of the century of the week of the month. I'm going with Ciryl here. I think that he's going to pull off the win here. There's a lot of things about Volkov that's confused me. The other one, you know what? I'm going to go with OSP. The Boser thing, not so sure on. Not so sure. Because he fought this month, and he had to go the distance against Alir Latifi. Not good.
That is such a bold lock, because what if Boser, since he is coming off a loss, what if he's like, he needs to make a statement in this short turnaround because he knows people are going to be doubting him.
And I'm going to say,
but you have to drill submissions against OSP. You have to work on your ground game. That's going to drain him. And also, he's going to have Bosers.
This is the last fight on Tanner Boser's contract, and he says going into this fight, I'm fighting for my career. Mm-hmm. Take what you will from that. But that adds a lot of extra motivation to me.
It does add to it, but I still like OSP.
Yeah, but as Eddie Kingston once said, bundle up, the world is cold. So if he's gonna go out here, he'll go out swinging, but he may end up, fighting in the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. And I'm not sniding Tanner Boser here. It's not a situation where I look at him the same way I look at the NL East, with contempt. It's just, I think OSP is going to get the win here. He's due a win. The quick turnaround time scares me. And if you're facing OSP, you have to drill for submissions, and you're facing an OSP now that's not having to cut weight, that is very comfortable in his body, and a body positive one.
Exactly. Plus OSP, he's fresher. I think there are some factors which I'm not going to get really into it because I'm putting this fight into my top UFC picks video. So check that out on SBR's YouTube page, my top UFC picks. I will include this fight in my breakdown, but I'll let you guys know I do like OSP for this fight for numerous factors. So again, check out my video. But there was one, now let's move on to our questions in the chat. There was one that really stood out to me the most. It might be like our only other question in here. But Justin Viega said, my question for you, may you answer, please. Same as always, I do DraftKings 6-fight parlay. Give me some prelim underdogs or fight that goes to a decision and both fighters give a lot of volume. That's pretty bold question. So let's just check out our prelim underdogs real quick. I mean, if
Nicolas Dalby, first one that comes to mind, Nicolas Dalby versus Tim Means. Both guys are durable. And that fight has a lot of potential to go the distance, but I know you guys were talking about, Matt, you said you like Nicolas Dalby. There's one you can throw in your 6-fight parlay.
6-fight parlay, that's bold, man. At the end of this one.
That is very bold.
6-fight parlay, especially if you're taking outcomes.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty bold.
Yeah.
But BC_Dave says Avila, Gane, and Rachmanov parlay. That's not a bad parlay right there.
Seems to be plus 200. It's a plus 200.
Plus 200. That's good value, my friend. I support that one 100%.
Doing all the work for us. God bless you. God bless you, BC_Dave.
Shout out to BC_Dave because he's always here too. You guys are awesome. But that is all that we have for our main card breakdown for UFC Vegas 30, Gane versus Volkov. Like always, give the guys a follow on Twitter. You can follow Matt at MRyan Consulting, and you can follow Jack at oh my God, I can't talk. Jack_Zampillo15. And since Dave is not here with us, he's obviously with us in spirit. Give Dave a follow at DManion_. You can find all of his content at sbrpicks.com/UFC. You can also find my content there and also the rest of our UFC experts. If you guys, find Jack's, oh my God, I cannot, articles. I'm blanking out. Find his articles at Scraptitude. Check out his podcast. Go to Matt's Twitter. Check out all of his content. I know he has something coming up on next Thursday. I don't know if you want to mention it now. Oh, because we don't have a show next week, so you should mention it.
Yeah, we don't have a show next week. So on Bobby Bonilla Day, on July 1st, they have given me a television show. I have a TV show now. It's called Yelling with Matt Ryan. You can find us on Twitter at We Are Yelling. We will begin our show on July 1st, Bobby Bonilla Day. It's myself and a whole bunch of people you've seen on my UFC live streams for Combat Culture and some new friends, including Not That Marvin Williams, Dr. Download, Stephanie Sotilli, and puppets. We've got a ton of puppets. We're going to be punishing hot takes the old-fashioned way. You can follow us on Twitter at We Are Yelling. You can subscribe to the Yelling YouTube channel. The show will live there. And also download Clicks TV. Those are the people giving me an hour of airtime every week to talk sports. It's Clicks TV, and also will be on Samsung Plus, Roku, and a whole bunch of other places. But for now, follow us at We Are Yelling. And live July 29th, we will be doing Tankapalooza 2021 during the NBA draft. Come get drunk with us live on July 29th. And as always, I love it.
I love it. I'm so excited for you, Matt. Really, congratulations on your new show. And everyone, tune in July 1st. It'll be on Thursday. Definitely be there. And also, before I forget, give SBR a follow on Twitter. You can follow him at SBR Sports Picks. And again, just go to sbrpicks.com/UFC for all of our UFC content. Now, I thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I wish you all the best of luck on all of your bets. I won't see you next week, but I'll see you back for UFC 264. I'll see you guys then.